Hey everyone, it's Allison Mondell here. Welcome to our community sing. It's February 16th, 2024, and I'm here in Massachusetts in the United States, and I'm so glad to be here with you. So thanks for joining me, whether that might be Facebook or YouTube, where we've been streaming these events. So I'm just gonna pull up my chat here and I'll drop the link to our art piece that we're working on today, which is O eterne Deus. O eterne Deus. And the English is O eternal God, or never-ending God, or infinite God. And there's a couple of directions I want to take us in today. The first thing I'd like to do, however, is just take a moment to breathe together. Oh, hey, Monica, Sean, Suzanne. Great, Suzanne. Sean, it's so good to hear from you. I owe you an email. I'm so happy to hear from you. So, everybody, I'd love to just take a moment, and we've got cat TV going on here too in the background. That could go a number of ways. Hi, Heather. I'm so glad you're here. In Pittsburgh, Suzanne, nice. I knew what you meant. All right, everyone, I invite you to take 3 breaths with me, just to sort of bring us into this space, and we'll go from there. So I invite you to just close your eyes and breathe in calming, quieting energy, and breathing out whatever needs to go. Breathing in calming, quieting energy, and breathing out whatever needs to go. And lastly, breathing in calming, quieting energy, and breathing out whatever wants to go. This song that we're looking at today has been elusive. I used to get really nervous about that. There's still a part of me that's like, you should have this figured out. But I don't. I don't have this piece figured out. I have some ideas, and I'd like to share them with you. And as I hope to always truly empower you creatively, artistically, spiritually, intellectually, empower you to come to conclusions on your own, of course, about this music. But we're talking about interpretation here. And as I've been especially trying to do in this season of these events, these community sings, I'm really attempting to get into the marrow of the bones. That is, how are we able to really connect with these songs at a deep personal level? To get in between the notes, to sort of squeeze our way in, almost like step behind the page too. How am I going to engage with this song? How am I going to engage with the ideas, with the author, with the composer? And do I have the agency to do this on my own? The answer, according to me, is of course you do. And it's my intention to plant some of those seeds and give you, for at least 45 minutes, a glance through my glasses to see what I'm seeing, in the hopes that it may illuminate something for you. So in this particular piece, I joked in my email to, and in the sort of talking about this song, like it's like peeling a mystifying mystical onion. It's like, where do I start? And so when I do approach these songs, I look at the whole thing, sort of take in the entirety of it, sort of get a sense for like the gestalt. What is it? What is it saying? What is it doing? What's its function? And where's my in? And I trust that the creative process will lead us down this yellow brick road in some way. And sometimes that looks different depending on the day. What is calling out to you? What is speaking to you? It depends on the season of life. Looking at this song right now is very different than it was 20 years ago when I was, a wee lass in my 20s. So there's a wisdom that we bring, of course, and there's a different kind of depth in the approach. I would like to qualify this approach a little bit. If you're new to Aya, if you're new to my particular brand of medieval music, if you're sort of being introduced to this through wearing my glasses for the first time, there's something I just want to sort of qualify all of this whole experience with. I think when it comes to the music of Hildegard, but if we look at medieval music in general, there is obviously a deeply embedded connection with Catholicism, the Catholic Church, the sort of governing body that birthed all of these creations. And I, as sort of teaching artist of Aya, I'm not embedded in that tradition. I have a very, sometimes willful, but deeply intentioned attitude towards radical inclusivity in medieval music, in music. And so it gets a little bit dicey when we are looking at certainly music of Hildegard, who was so deeply and willingly embedded in the institution in which she lived her whole life. And I want to acknowledge that. It's important. But I don't believe that we need to exclude ourselves if we are not part of that tradition. And indeed, I think we have an invitation to really rumble with that a little bit. Not in any way that's going to sort of butt heads or cause strife, but in a way that can actually deepen our process, can enhance our wisdom, and can sort of expand this welcome to so many people who love this music. So it's important to have, in my opinion, this is my opinion, this kind of accessibility, a spiritual accessibility, intellectual accessibility, and an accessibility that honors your experience. Okay, so all of that said, and the reason I'm saying it is because we're going to encounter some of these themes that are, through Hildegard's eyes, essential in her theology, but that I want us to feel that we can grapple with that in some ways. So I'm talking a lot. I appreciate your patience. It's important, I think. So, everybody, the first thing I want to do is just talk about a couple of almost logistics here. We're looking at, does everybody have the piece? I hope you have the piece. We're looking at a liturgical form known as the antiphon. It's kind of ubiquitous, the antiphon. We have so many antiphons in Hildegard's oeuvre. We have this form that is going to be really a quintessential sort of building block of the Benedictine order, specifically. And in this case, we have this antiphon that sort of tucks itself, or is tucked by certainly scholar Barbara Newman, but sort of generally speaking, Hildegard's works are organized by their theme, their thematic content, or more specifically, what each song is devoted to or is intended for. So in this case, we have this pretty big topic, God the Father. And we're looking at the sort of top of the triangle in some ways, the Father, and then we have the Son and the Holy Spirit, this Trinitarian concept that I think is so beautiful to explore in the Laus Trinitati, another of Hildegard's antiphons, exploring the fullness of that triune sort of conception in a very Hildegardian way. However, we have this really incredibly expansive, eternal, infinite, expansive deity. And I think there's a contrast, and this is where my first in was when I saw this piece, this contrast between this extravagance, this infinitude, this eternity, this power, this love with a capital L. And it's all going to sort of draw itself into this word, a word in line 9 on the second page. And the word is necessitatem, longings, urgings, desires, needs. Not needs like food and water and sleep and shelter and clothing. Those are needs of the body, not the needs of human contact and sort of relationships and love. Those are the sort of emotional needs of belonging and safety. But I see these as the needs of the ego, right? And so we have this contrast, this excessive love and these freaking needs. These very human needs. I need it. So a part of me needs it. My ego, my inner child, some hurt part of me, something that is just not complete unless I have this need fulfilled. And what happens? We attach ourselves. We attach ourselves. And in so many spiritual traditions, Buddhism especially, we approach these needs with understanding that we inherently have them. But in this piece, we talk here in this sort of the latter half of this piece, this sort of petition piece. We're speaking to God, and then we say, look upon these necessitatem that fall on us, draw them out of us, take them away. There's a verb here, to abstrae, to draw out of or from, pulling it from me, these needs. But there's also in line 10, she says, Kve super nos cadit, that these urgings are super, above, or falling. And I sort of feel that as like a pressure, that mental pressure, the emotional pressure, the psychological pressure, the pressure that we feel when we're being spurred on by these longings. And it's freaking uncomfortable. And this, in so many ways, is just the plight of humanity. We have an ego. It needs things. And here we're asking to be relieved of that. And I think there's a really interesting contrast here. And I think it's a very humble way to say, I need help with these needs. So She follows in lines 12 and 13 to draw them out of us through your Son, through Christ, through this embodiment of the divine, and through the consciousness of that, and lead us into the joy of salvation. And as I spoke of earlier, sort of understanding that these works are so deeply embedded in Catholic theology, Christian theology, it's not something that's old, it's something that is very, very present. Salvation, to save, salvare, salutis. There's this sense of, and here's where I just want to paint a picture of this really quickly, and we'll move into the music very shortly. I would really like you to think about, just planting a seed, just think about this word, salutis, salvation. And how do we crack that nut? That, having a longing is one thing. Being saved is a thing. I just want to sort of pull apart any kind of I want to take off the gloss of any kind of dogma there and get, like I said earlier, to the marrow of that. Tricky. But I think it's important to give ourselves the opportunity to just get closer. And as I often talk about, building some relationship with this song, not just singing the words and doing the notes okay. It's really building relationship and saying, how does that work for me? What does that mean? Where do I resist that? And where can I be welcomed further in? For now, we're going to let the music work us a little bit. Another logistical point. I realize that's a very open-ended thing that I just offered you, and that's on purpose. But another sort of piece of this, I'm transposing this down. You see it's in E. The final is E, in E Phrygian. I've transposed us down to D because there's no need to be heroes. We have a lot of written high Gs in this piece, and it's a community sing. All are welcome, but that can be a little bit intimidating for some. But it is important to note that I don't believe any of these notes are there randomly. There's a very specific, intentional purpose for the music. And as is so often the case, when we see some of these passages where we have the music sort of really ascending and expanding, these are moments where it's like we're being lifted up and out. The voice goes up, but the self opens. And in some ways, we also see this heightened energy. I'm going to invite you from a musical, vocal point of view to try something. That when we do head up, I want you to come sort of down. I don't mean like down, I mean to root yourself down. So that when the music is starting to expand and blow out a little bit, we become a firmer foundation for that to move through us rather than for us to be swept up and away, which is very easy to do. It's very common. And indeed, we are just rooting ourselves more firmly into the fire so that we can be the vessels for this really powerful musical energy that's moving through us. A lot of talking. I could talk all day. So here is the opening salutation. O eterne Deus. I'd love for you to say that. Just speak it in everyday language. O eterne Deus. There's something really special and personal about that, even though it's this. Oh, could you just try that opening? Oh, 1-5. Here we go. Ready? And breathe in. Oh, beautiful. So even in this opening raised fifth, there's probably a tendency for us to pull up and out of that root. And I want you to really root yourself. Imagine that fifth is like a tree. You don't have to go up the tree trunk. You're the tree. You're in the roots, right? I want you to stay in the roots. See what happens. See how that feels. One more time. Oh. Yeah, you got it. That's very different. Nothing about your voice needs to go up there. It's all stable. Okay. Now we're going to go on. As we were saying before, making these words personal. Here we go. Sing with me. Oh, eterne Deus. Could you just sing for me, Deus? Ready? And Deus. Not two syllables, not de and us. Deus. Ready? And Deus. Good. Could you sing for me? Eterne Deus. Ready? And eterne Deus. Beautiful. So we're establishing a sense right here at the beginning. Groundedness and a personal connection through the language. We don't have to plumb every mystery in this song, as fun as that would be, but I want you to be able to really, again, get into the marrow, make it yours. It's your marrow. It's not someone else's. It's not mine. Let's try this whole first line. So we're going to ground that sort of our sense of physical stability and energetic stability. I start here in the heart and I just ground that into right through my whole body. Here we go. Ready? Breathing in. Oh, eterne Deus. Beautiful. Listen to the second line. Nunc tibi placeat. Ready? Here we go. Nunc tibi placeat. Beautiful. Oh, eternal God, now may it please you. May it please you. May it please you. We're asking for something there, okay? Let's do line 3. We'll keep going. Have a listen. Sing along if you'd like. Ut in amore illo ardeas. This is my favorite line. Here's how it goes. Ut in amore illo ardeas. It's so close to the heart. It's almost like a secret, like a whisper, like a prayer that is just so personal. Can we try line 3 together? Ready? And ut in amore illo ardeas. Good. Syntactically, lines 2 and 3 are going together. The idea continues, but I want to put 2 and 3 together for you. Could we try Nunc tibi placeat ut? And we're going to go 2 to 3. Here we go. Ready? Line 2. And Nunc tibi placeat ut. with the idea. Ut membra illasimus. It's so organic, that line. Line 4, ready? Ut membra illasimus. Sidebar. You can see in this, this notation, it's modern notation based on the manuscript, where you have a small note head and a large note head. These are very simplistic ways of illustrating very specific things in the source. But you can, can you see the way that the text, the sort of prosody, the beautiful organic connection of text and music there. It is very specific. It is very expressive. And in my opinion, it lends great credence to this chant being so specifically about speech. It was a very verbose way of saying something simple, which is, do you see how the text and the music go together so nicely? Okay. Line 4. Ut membra illasimus. Ready, everybody? And ut membra illasimus. Here's line 5. Stay rooted. Have a listen. Que fecisti in eodem amore. Good. Now remember, we're down a whole step. Try it with me. And que fecisti in eodem amore. Beautiful. Beautiful. Here's line 6. Listen. Cum filium tuum genuisti. You can hear how that line wants to keep going melodically, but we're going to just sing line 6. Ready? And here we go. Have a breath. Cum filium tuum genuisti. Beautiful. Here's line 7. In prima aurora. She's sort of holding us out in that really tense place of the C. It's nice. Have a try. Here's line 7. In prima aurora. We'll talk about that in a sec. Breathing in and in prima aurora. It's just sort of lingering in that. So where you see, if you're new to this, wherever you have a consonant or syllable in parentheses, we have what's called a liquescent neum, which is what that is representing. In this case, it's also known as a plica, and in that kind of notation, we are sending the sort of energy right into that consonant. We're closing down on that baby, and we're singing right through it. And it's a very expressive gesture. It's beautiful if you really lean into it. And you see it in the beginning of line 6 too. So let's do 6 and 7 one more time, and then we'll finish that up and go into line 8. So here we go. Here we go. Breathing in and cum filium tuum genuisti in Let's do line 8. Here, have a listen or sing along. Ante omne creaturam. There is a small error on the end of line 8. It should read creaturam, not creatura. Mea culpa. So let's try that all together, everybody. Ready? Ande. Ande omne creaturam. Good. Good. Let's just go back for a sec. What we have are some interesting lines. We haven't talked too much about the text in this opening section, but it's pretty interesting. There's a wonderful word that Hugh uses that is so evocative, and it's the word smolder. Smolder, to burn, to sort of, it's almost like this deep inner fire. It's so hot, it smolders. That we're this petition, this salutation, we're still saying, "O eternal God, may it please you now to smolder in this love, that in those limbs we may become." The limbs, yes, our human limbs. In this context, Hildegard is also referring to the limbs of the body of Christ, or the church. So we have limbs of the church. I would sort of broaden that to consider all of humanity as limbs of God. The limbs are our being is that enacting of God's will. And may we be made in the same love that you birthed your son. Your presence here in the material realm on earth. And here we have, sort of subtext here is that Mary is being called into this area, in this sort of arena too. When you birthed your son through Mary in the first sunrise, and we think about that in two ways. We see the first sunrise as in before creation, as in at the beginning, at the very beginning of all of creation, at the time of Genesis. And then we also have, of course, the first sunrise or dawn, in which Hildegard's always referring to Mary as the dawn. So we have this wonderful sort of overlapping thematic sort of material here. It's not really important, but it's wonderful to know, and it may inform something that's sort of coming through for you. But here we have this timeless expanse of eternity and the foreknowing of God coming here through Christ, but also the foreknowing of us here, which is layered, but I think it's important. Because as we've been talking about this personal approach, we talk about the longings of a very personal nature. We're talking specifically about saying this prayer as a deeply personal expression of a real need, not an ego need. Maybe it is an ego need. Maybe it doesn't matter. But how we're able to actually express that in a way that's just in great integrity. Okay, even in its mystery, which it is for me. So here we go. Where in the heck are we? Line 9. Here's the big one. And look upon these urgings. I like the word urging because it implies a sense of impatience. Another wonderful paradox as we're talking about, this is very timely for me. We're always needing things immediately. I have a friend who calls it the Amazon primification of things, where we want something and we want it yesterday. And at the same time, we're looking at this vast timelessness. And really, this sort of space before time, where all is already either foretold or in thought only. So it's pretty cool. Here we go. I'm going to sing it, and you're welcome to sing it with me. We'll do it twice. Line 9. Ready? Et in specie necessitatem anc. And there's that wonderful kind of lamenting sense of anc. Anc. Let's try that one more time. Ready? And et in specie necessitatem anc. Beautiful. Let's keep going. Quis per nos cadit. And here we talked about this earlier, where we feel this pressure down that's on us, that's befallen us, this sense of weighted burden. One more time. Line 10. Ready? Quis per nos cadit. Beautiful. And then we're saying, now draw them out. Et I'm noticing in this song, we're going to sing that line one more time. I'm noticing in this song there's many instances of the pressus. So why? I don't know. But there's a lot of pressure in those moments. It's uncomfortable. It's not always dissonant necessarily, but it's definitely again, thinking about that sense of pressure going down. It's a discomfort, existentially speaking. Et abstrae eam nobis, this call, this petition, right? Et abstrae eam nobis. Good. Now let's keep going. We've got 2 more lines. Here's line 12. Propter filium tuum. There's so much of this gesture in that. I'm going to try that again. Propter filium tuum. And then we get to this last line. And lead us into the joy of your salvation. Lead us, perduc, or also bring us through. That's very different. Like Ariadne. You gotta go through. You could go around, but I don't think that's the case here. We need to go inside. We need to go through the pressure. Oh, pressus. Okay, let's try that again. Line 13. Ready, everybody? Here's the heart. And breathe. Et perduc nos. I made a mistake. I meant to do line 12. Ready? Propter filium tuum. I'll sing through 13. Join me if you'd like, and we'll do it again. Et perduc nos. I would breathe here. And then I would breathe again. sort of speech here. Let's try that again, everybody. I hope you're having fun. You know, on a personal level, thinking about the word salutis, we talked about this earlier. There's this prayer to lead us out of this longing, help us move through it, let us be led by Christ and into salvation. So we have this sort of the broader themes of sort of humanity's salvation through Christ, the ultimate Christian doctrine. And at the same time, I just glossing here, there's the very real notion of real struggle with our egoic desires. There's a real conflict with how do we show up as our true selves in integrity and be successful and have good relationships and all the things we really want in our life. And we need help. That's a struggle. And how are we able to not be saved from that, but be brave enough to walk through that? Knowing that, being saved isn't necessarily what I need. But I want to be liberated. There's other ways of looking at this. And I just want to keep the door ajar for what flows in. So, I have an idea. I'd like to go through the whole piece. I'm just checking in with our comments here. Oh my goodness. Suzanne, there's only 2 G's in it. 1, is that true? 2, 3. I see 3. I don't think it's too urgent to note that. But I think there's, maybe you're talking about transcribing or transposing it. I'm not sure. Heather, please could you explain the different sizes of notes in the score? Yes. So I talked a little bit about that. So that the convention that I'm using in these editions is hoping to capture this sort of more elusive quality in the language of chant, which is, and especially I should say specifically Hildegard's chant. Let's speak to that specifically. So when we're looking at this musical language, and when we then also look at the technology of the notation that was available at that time in the 12th century, we're looking at a language, a musical language, a rhetorical language, an expressive language that is not strictly rhythmicized, but is very much dependent on the nature of speech and rhetoric, that is also looking at a relative weight, duration, stress based on the qualifications of the language. And I would also say in Hildegard's world of the expressive idea. So we have the note heads attempting to capture some of that. So if you see something that's smaller, it has a more dynamic quality. It has a sense of less stress, less time, less hanging out. Now, of course, I'm not following that religiously. I'm also following my own instincts as I sing the piece. But I could be wrong about that. But I don't think it's really right or wrong. But where we see, like, for example, in line 4, ut membra, ut. ut mem. So when I see something small like that, I don't need to spend any time on that word. I'm moving through it into something else that's going to have more meat on the bones, or more import, or greater import. So when we see in line 5, que fecisti, that's a wonderful way in which she's using the notation to express the language very, very clearly. Cum filium tuum. So there's areas of interpretation here, but that's basically giving us a key to the expression of the language, and certainly the expression of the music. And it all sort of is along a spectrum. There's no sort of hard and fast rules there. Portal from Brazil, Estragon from Colombia. Hello, hello. Suzanne, 3Gs. Thank you, Suzanne. That's very kind to say. Okay, wow, we are just... I love being gathered together, and it's such a thrill. And I think I'd like to go through this piece. I have a crazy idea, which is, as we are, this is tricky in a virtual setting. I am the first one to acknowledge that. And, I do these events not to substitute live singing. I have very little political interest in talking about live versus virtual, but I do very much acknowledge the great gift of collectively doing this together at the same time, or even if you're watching later, it doesn't matter. I'd love to be able to very intentionally create a space as we do sing this song of opening the circle. I'm by myself with my cats in my office. So I am not with you in person, but I am utterly with you in spirit and in energy. And I'd love to be able, we're going to try an experiment here. We're going to sing this together. And even out of time, it's okay if you're watching this at another time. I'd love to just take a breath where we're really kind of opening the circle to everyone that's here, wherever you are. You're sort of connecting this group. Just take a breath. And now wherever you are, I'd like you to take another breath, coming into the heart, and I want you to just ground yourself into the earth. And I would love for you to envision that as we are all rooted in, like a network of trees, we're just going to kind of allow all of this groundedness to interconnect like roots. And as we sing this, we're where we are, but we're also here. Love for you to hold this desire. This is what I'm prompting. You choose whatever you want. To be able to actually have the courage to move through, to be brought through the pressure of the struggle. Ooh, that's good. Because it's so hard. So hard. The friction of these longings, right? May we be brought through. And as we understand that we're all connected, we're all working through that in our own very unique ways. But we are actually united in that we all have urgings. That's just our humanity. And we were also all foreknown in infinity. And we're all doing the best we can. But we can do it together. Rooted. That's my crazy idea. Ready, everybody? I want you to just make it personal. We're breathing together and... Oh. beautiful. Beautiful. I'm very grateful for you. So thank you. I agree. So heavenly. I agree. In going forward, I think there's such a gift that we have in allowing to bring this music closer. I spoke before of sort of getting into it, getting through the notes. Here's my piece of paper, right? How do I get in there? Through here. Not here. Through here. And having permission and agency to say, what do we have here? Let me look closer. Let me draw it in. And trusting yourself and trusting whatever creative flow is moving through you to inform that process too. It's very empowering. And it's also really exciting and pretty magical. So, so good. I really, really love these. Suzanne, thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Suzanne. I will be hosting another community sing next month. If you have any thoughts or comments, put them here in the chat or send me a message on AS Facebook page. Thank you, Liz. You're welcome. Heather, thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Sean. And, as it's just sort of a PS from this piece, there's very much a sense of, needing to remove that pressure. And I think there's something that Hildegard offers us here that is, we can be relieved of that. Indeed, it is something that is 100% binding us together as human beings. And we all want to be relieved of that pressure. And that I think there's a way through the prayer of that being worked out. That might be a stretch for you, but that's my belief. Liz. Oh, good. Okay. Oh, Portal, you're welcome. So everyone, take care. Take care. I look forward to seeing you soon. And I'd love to hear your thoughts too if you have any. But I'll sign off now and we'll reconnect soon. And I'm very happy to intertwine roots with you. So thank you. Yes, Deb, I'm glad. Yes, sing it to me. I agree. Good. Take care, everyone. Thank you.